former NBC host Chuck Todd admitted that the media was fearful of exposing Joe Biden. Now, we knew this was the case, but boy, have we learned a lot just in this past week. A couple of books were published with Biden insiders telling us the true story of who was really running things. I'm reading one of them, and I can't wait this weekend to spend some time to read through it. One of the excerpts that I read last night was telling the story of back in late 23, early 24, when Biden still had not announced whether he would seek re-election. A lot of the talk behind the scenes, and I've always suspected it. And if you believe what some of these staffers were saying, Jill Biden was the one who was pushing Joe Biden to run. So some close to Biden suggested that he kind of suspected maybe he should not run. Jill Biden did not want to give up the luxury lifestyle of living in the White House, of Air Force One, of the Marine helicopter, and all the trappings of power. And even though she knew better than anybody that her husband wasn't capable of serving another 4-year term, she really pushed him and insulated him and protected him, trying to keep the American people and the media from knowing the condition he was really in. We saw through that, though. So Chuck Todd was on with Piers Morgan, uncensored, and the British host asked Todd why the media seemed reluctant to push harder on Biden's age at the time and his mental acuity. Todd defended the media at first, saying that the American public was able to come to its own conclusions about Biden because of the media's coverage, which he said drew attention to Biden's decline without being overt. He kept talking about they didn't want to be overt in the coverage. Here's Chuck Todd describing to Piers Morgan how they were fearful of really reporting on Joe Biden.
I would argue the reason people were able to come to their own conclusion on Joe Biden is because of the media coverage. You know, look, we were subtle. He's using the back staircase. He's not using the front staircase. Hey, he's not doing any interviews. So there was this reluctance to draw the conclusion to say, is he not doing this? And that I agree with. That was held back a lot. I would argue it was also held back a lot back in the late 80s when it was clear Ronald Reagan wasn't necessarily running everything in the White House. Whether you want to call it decorum, whatever you want to call it, look, there were plenty of members of the media. I remember David Ignatius in the Washington Post, plenty of individual people questioning whether he should run. I certainly questioned whether he should run. You didn't understand, there were some of that. But I understand the argument about the collective on that front. The only thing I can chalk it up to is this, whatever you want to call it, this fear that some members of the media had sometimes that they would be perceived as helping Trump if they somehow diminished Biden, right? That it was some sort of zero-sum game. Mm-hmm. And I think this has been the fundamental mistake that many members of the traditional press have done.
So just forget about the country. Forget about the fact that we had someone, the most powerful man in the world, leading our country or trying to lead it. And so you were afraid to report on his real condition, his real mental ability to serve in that position, because you didn't want to help Donald Trump, because you hated Donald Trump so that you're going to be silent on the real Joe Biden and put our country at risk. This is why people despise the mainstream media as they do. People like Chuck Todd and these networks who don't want to tell the truth. They knew this. And boy, as I get deeper into this book, some of the things that the insiders at the White House knew about Joe Biden, but they were sworn to secrecy. They were afraid for their jobs. They didn't want to tell. And the media didn't want to report it because they could not stand the idea of Donald Trump being back in the Oval Office. Wow. Back to the phones. Let's start with Eduardo in New Mexico. Welcome. How are you?
Yeah,
Eduardo?
good. I just want to comment. Yeah, what you just commented about the media, that's so awful of the mainstream media. Why would they not want the return of a narcissistic sociopath psychopath who wants to drive the country.
Oh, yeah, Eduardo, thank you. Yeah. Well, we've had a number of trolls this week, and it's kind of flattering to know that they listen to us or maybe watch us on the Salem News Channel, isn't it? Texter says, can you believe that some people, mainly media personalities and actors, want to return to the fantasy world of Biden, Harris, because they can't deal with the reality of Trump dealing with the damage that Biden-Harris caused? I'll sink or swim with Trump. These folks are against him. They're truly insane in a clinical sense. They're mad. They hate Donald Trump so badly that they put this over the well-meaning and the good intentions that all of our Trump folks, the conservative movement, the MAGA movement, we want America first. We want what's best for our country. They want what's best for their party and for the leftists and the woke in the party. And how they could not see the harm that was being done these past 4 years. I read an article last night about Kamala Harris, and evidently she's planning her comeback now. She's licked her wounds, and she thinks that America just made a mistake, and she's going to forgive us. She's going to give us another chance. Would you ever, in any circumstance, vote for Kamala Harris? I had a troll yesterday who called in, and he was just going off on Trump, and I asked him, I said, did you vote for Kamala Harris? And he confirmed that he did. And I wish I'd had time to really explore that with him, but we have so many people that we want to give you a chance, the conservatives, the people who love our president, not to waste time on some of these trolls. But I'd love to just sit down sometime with someone like that who just has this hatred for the president when he's doing all these good things for our country. They benefit from it. Back to the phones. Mike is in Indiana. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, Joey. Thanks for taking my call. My comment is on the so-called journalists who didn't want to, reveal Biden's condition and
exactly
we're going to help Trump. As far as I'm concerned, they're not journalists anymore at that point. They're objective. I mean, they're biased and everything else. Their objectivity is gone. The freedom of the press should apply to the people who are objective and journalists.
Yeah.
You want to expose the power. Trump wasn't in power at that time, so that drives me crazy. And I love when Caroline, the spokesman for the White House, when she calls them out on that kind of stuff about how they're, hey, you didn't say nothing before, or
exactly.
You guys are fighting completely. So.
Well, and Mike, the whole media industry has changed so dramatically. You're right. I mean, you can't really call some of these people like Chuck Todd a journalist anymore because they're not interested in getting the truth. They just want to protect their ideology. And as he admitted, they were afraid of the Biden administration. They were afraid of the Biden campaign operation, that they would be blackballed somehow. Back to the phones. Let's go to George in Texas. Welcome, George.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something about the legacy media. They're all on the payroll. That's their problem, and they're just like the rest of them. They want to get back on that dang taxpayer dollar. I really believe that it all falls down to the money of it.
Oh, of course it is. It's always the money. It's always the greed of the money, and I don't know how our media industry got to this point. How we ended up with pretty much all of the major networks, with the exception of Fox and Newsmax, One America Network, how we ended up with those networks being so far left. Because they make a lot of money. And you would think that they would they would like some of the programs that Donald Trump promotes. I mean, less taxes, less regulation. You'd think they would be in favor of that. But somehow they have gone off the rails over the past years, and as the caller said a minute ago, we can't call them journalists anymore because a true journalist will dig around for the truth. A true journalist, he or she's not going to have friends on either side. They just want the truth, and they want to be able to report the truth to you.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.